heart beating at a very normal rate. Heart's not racing, I mumbled. He laughed. What, my heart's beating so fast? Yours is, I thought you were excited to see me. More mumbling, Ammon held my face in his hands and tilted it up. It was racing until I saw you, he said. So you're saying, I'm saying you bring me calm. I gently ran my thumb over the stubble along his jawline. He turned his face so he could place a kiss in the palm of my hand. We picked up the bags of food and walked in silence into the elevator and then into my apartment. The energy between us was familiar, but still a little tense. Maybe he was wondering how to begin the conversation we'd decided to have, just like I was wondering how much to reveal to him and how much to keep safe. I didn't know yet what he'd want to know, but more than that I didn't know exactly how much I wanted to share. It had been more than a year since I'd sat down and actually spoken to someone about all the things that haunted me. I didn't know if I was ready to bare myself just yet. What I did know was that I had to apologize to him for being a complete ass. So I spoke before he could. Ammon, there she is. We'd barely walked into her apartment when Avani turned to me and said breathlessly, I'm so sorry. I've acted like a complete and utter brat, and I want you to know that that's not who I am. At least not all the time. Imian, I'm better than that. I'm sorry I froze. I'm sorry I was rude. I'm sorry I didn't call or text you. I thought of it, I went over all our chats, overran over again, but for some reason I couldn't get over whatever I was feeling. I don't know how to explain it, and I know it wasn't nice. I'm sorry I acted selfishly and didn't give a thought to how you must have felt. But I want you to know that whatever I did or did not say was because of you. It was because of me. It was because I have these issues that make it up for me to simply believe that a perfectly great guy like you would want anything to do with me. My life in the past few years has been weird and I didn't know it would creep up on me like it did the other day. I like you, and I like spending time with you. So please believe me when I say I really am sorry. She took a breath, shut her eyes tight, then opened them and looked at me earnestly. I wanted to gather her in my arms and hug her so tight that all her broken pieces would be glued back together. I wanted to tell her that she shouldn't feel guilty for feeling the way she did. I wanted to kiss the tears off her cheeks and pull her to my chest so the world wouldn't be able to ghetto her in whatever way it had in the past. Instead, I smiled. Okay, she asked, surprised. Okay, that's all you want to say. You don't need to know why I acted the way I did. The only thing I needed to know was that you like me. I tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear. She looked at me with those big, beautiful eyes of hers and an expression that looked like a mixture of amusement and relief. Like she wanted me to say more, but was relieved that I had accepted her apology without any more dialogue. A ghost of a smile tugged at the corners of her lips, and her eyes lit up in the way they always did when she was about to say something playful. She got on her toes and placed a soft kiss on Mitchin before she turned to walk towards her bedroom. I'm going to take a shower, she announced from her bedroom door. My eyebrows shot up of their own accord. Are you going to leave that door open? I asked. No. She narrowed her eyes. I sighed. Then don't tempt me with details I have nothing to do with, sweetheart. Why will I leave the door open if you're in there with me? She winked. Really? I blurted out, no. She laughed an exaggerated laugh as she went into the bathroom and locked the door, and there she was, my little flirt. May, June, July 2023, Avani playing with fire. If I said what followed over the next few months was fun, it would be an understatement. What followed over the next few months was a fucking fairy tale. It was like someone had installed new batteries in my clock and given every wall in my mind a fresh coat of paint. Let me walk you through it. I had almost the whole of May off from classes, and then some more. I spent more time at the bookstore. Maya, Ria, and I went on several museum and art gallery dates. I spent a whole week with Aji, helping her pack for her trip to Kashmir with her gal pals, her words, not mine. Martin and I hosted baking lessons for kids at the store on alternate weekends. Martin baked, and I was just the guinea pig used for tasting all the shit that kids made. I might or might not have got a terribly upset stomach for all off the following week, but it was nothing Shantatai's Rusham and regular cuddles from Ammon couldn't fix. Speaking of Ammon, we spent most of our evenings together. After the conversation at my house and the heartbeat calming shower, which I sadly took by myself, we came to the conclusion that we should take it slow and see where it goes. We agreed we both loved spending time with each other, so we decided to start there. So you'll be my time spender? He asked goofily, his mouth full of Thurald's best spring rolls from Prashant Chinese corner. I can be your money spender too, Daddy. I shot back, winking. He laughed so hard that I was sure the rest of the spring roll would come out of his nose, while I cringed visibly at the words that had left Mymouth. I spent the rest of the dinner convincing him that I had no interest in High's money, and he spent it laughing at me for the shit I sometimes blurted out. That was the evening I knew exactly what I wanted to spend all my time with him doing, making him laugh. He had the brightest laugh I'd ever heard, and it came from deep within. His brows bunched up, little lines appeared in the corners of his eyes, which turned into slits, and his dimple spot on a full show. He also had rich people teeth that were unbelievably clean and white and perfectly aligned. And sometimes, just sometimes when I absolutely killed it with my one-liners, especially the flirty ones. He pressed his face into the palms of his hands and his shoulders slumped, as did his neck in the sense of a subtle surrender, which told me I'd want that round. And I didn't have to try too hard either. He laughed easily and at all my jokes, so he was great for my already inflated ego. The other day we were rearranging the books in his gorgeous library athome, my idea, when, without any explanation, he cleared a tiny corner shelf at the top. "We can leave that empty," he said. "Why would we leave a whole shelf empty? We have so many books that can go there. That shelf isn't for those books. You're doing that thing where you use a lot of words to get to the point, sir." I rolled my eyes as I wiped another leather-bound Jane Austen clean and placed it on the opposite shelf. "I want you to give me a list of your favorite romance novels. All the dirty ones with the dirty covers. This shelf's for those." He carried on with the task at hand like he hadn't just laid me on a table, made careful incisions in my chest cavity, and sliced a piece of my heart out for himself. I slowly turned and stared at the back of his head, till he laughed and without turning around said, "Don't look at me like that." The god of guts and overconfidence must have shone her brightest spotlight on me, because I strode over to him, turned him around, lowered that gorgeous head of curly hair with both my hands and locked my lips with his. I knew I'd caught him off guard, as his face showed equal part surprise and delight. "Wow," he breathed. "What was that for? No reason. Just felt like it." Broke into a wide grin, grabbed my waist and picked me up like it was a bag of feathers and floof. He carried me to the coffee table, raised his left leg up on it so I now had the world's most comfortable seat as he wrapped my legs around his waist. We must have made out for a minute, or 20, when I finally pulled back and looked into those deep brown eyes. "Going forward, please always do whatever you feel like." Whatever he said, smirking, "I always do." I blushed as I dismounted from his leg. It wasn't as dirty as it sounds. I know. We decided to take it slow, but let's be serious. It was taking it slow by not ripping his clothes off and stripping down to do something I haven't stopped thinking about. On days when we weren't eating Chinese takeout on my couch or making out in his library, Ammon and I took long walks in the city. I hated the summer heat that Mumbai spat up all through May, so Ammon would pick me up late at night, when the roads were emptier and the breeze cooler. We would walk along Gurgyan Chowpatty, Marine Drive and the bylanes of Colaba, or sometimes just sit by the sea at the Gateway of India. His company made the flags that were hoisted on all official buildings and historical sites in the country. So he got special access to sit right under the gateway at any time of the night after the place had been closed to visitors. I wasn't surprised. He could tell me his family owned the Gateway of India because Queen Victoria lost it to his great-great-grandfather in a tosh party during Diwali, and I would have believed him in a heartbeat. We would talk about video games, comic books, pet peeves, twerking, and just about anything that came into our heads. Or we'd stare at the sea while I rested my head on his shoulder, and he drew little circles in my palms with his fingers. I would try to match my breaths with his just so our bodies moved together. We were a fucking postcard, y'all. Later at night, I would lie in bed smiling to myself like an idiot. I tried to warn myself about getting ahead of things, but mostly just immersed myself in the calm I felt every minute I spent with Ammon. I hadn't felt that in a very long time. Baby steps, Avani. Baby leaps. June started with me visiting the private airport in Mumbai for the first time. Did you know Mumbai had a private airport? I always thought chartered flights flew out of rich people's backyards. Turns out I was wrong. Ammon had to fly to Italy for a couple of weeks for a work conference, followed by a family vacation, so I graciously offered to drop him to the airport. In his car, to his private jet. "I would say I'll miss you, but Professor Umbridge says one must not tell lies," I said, pretending to be coy. "In that case, I'll miss you too. And I will definitely not be checking out the half-naked Italian women on the beaches of Sicily. He smirked. Ash hooked one arm around my waist and pulled me closer. I started. Yes, he drawled. Fine, I'll miss you for real. Don't look at Italian boobs, please. He rolled my eyes and tucked my head in his chest. Not that I care, I added. Absolutely love this carefree side of yours. No Italian boobs, Iprimus, he whispered, holding me closer still. Good. And get me a fridge magnet, okay? I said as I hugged him tight. I murmured against his chest. Who's Professor Umbridge? I looked at him squarely in the eyes and said, Ammon, don't dare walk into my bookstore again. I still had a week before classes would start after summer break, so I took an impromptu trip with the girls, Martin and Dietrov. Our destination wasn't Italy, but a close second. Mahabaleshwar. The 6-hour-long drive to the hill station felt immeasurably long till we got to our hotel just in time to witness the sunset. The world made sense again. The view from our room's balcony was to die for, and the breeze wascool with the anticipation of the monsoon. Maya, Martin and I bunked together in one room, and Ria and Dietrov took the second one. By this point, we had all kind of started pretending that we were blind and didn't bother asking them about their relationship status, even though we had a million questions. Are you two dating? Is it serious? Is it casual? Does Rena know what casual means? Do you guys think we are stupid? But Ria looked happy, so we let them be. Which meant that Maya, Martin, and I spent most of that weekend together, chatting, sharing, laughing, doing extensive skincare routines, taking long, untimely naps and longer rambling walks. Babe, when Ammon asked you for pictures from the trip, I'm pretty sure he meant ones of you, preferably naked. Haven't you sent him enough pictures of the sky already? Martin joked on the second evening, after Thesson had sunk below the horizon and I had reviewed the photos I'd taken of a perfect painted sky. Yeah, there is a sky where he is. Maya laughed. And maybe a much prettier one, speaking of pretty. I picked up my second glass of Long Island iced tea from the side table and lay down on my stomach on the bed, where Martin and Maya were lounging. I increased the brightness of my phone screen and turned it around towards them. Motherfucker, Martin whispered, bending forward to take a closer look. I call Photoshop, Maya said, one eyebrow raised. That can't be real. I proudly shrugged and turned the screen back towards me to gawk at the image Ammon had sent of himself earlier that morning. Sit back, relax, let me paint a picture for you, Ammon. In white swimming trunks that hung low on his stoned, tight waist. He was kneeling on the beach, flashing those high-grade thighs, with sand peppered across his legs and chest. His right hand gripped the neck of a beer bottle tightly enough for those veins in his forearms to pop, and his left hand rested carelessly on his thigh. His toned, muscled torso was tanned and glistening like he'd just stepped out of the Ocean after a swim. There were specks of crystallized salt on his collarbone end. His neck muscles were flexed in the way I knew they did when I said something goofy. And there it was, that gorgeous, gorgeous smile on that gorgeous, gorgeous face. His wet hair was brushed back like he had just run his fingers through it, and his eyes were hidden behind what must have been a stupidly expensive pair of sunglasses. I'd always wanted a tattoo. But I could never decide what would make him feel hot enough to get an image of it branded on my skin for the rest of me life. Now I knew. This exact picture of Ammon, tattooed in color on my left fucking butt cheek, because the right one was reserved for Daniel Radcliffe's autograph whenever I saw him. How the fuck have you kept your hands to yourself? Martin asked. I took a huge sip of my drink and replied, I mean, I've barely managed to keep my pants on when he walks towards me in those dress. Pants and shirts with the sleeves folded up to his elbows. If he ever wore his swimming trunks when I was around, I would lose it. I made a mental note to never go swimming with Ammon. Or to the beach, or to the sauna, or anywhere that would require us to not be fully clothed. Bitch, lose it, please, Martin exclaimed. I smiled to myself, rolled onto my back and opened Ammon's chat me. I think you should wear your swimming trunks every day. To work, to the gym, on our walks. Every day. Ammon, you're still staring at that photo from this morning, aren't you, you little creep me? Listen, I've had a couple of LIITs and the true beauty of that photo is just beginning to shine through. Let me admire it, Ammon. You haven't sent me any pictures of your pretty face, you know that, me. Your face was in that picture too, Ammon. Funny, me. Yummy, Ammon, I gotta go. Everyone, waiting for lunch. Call you tomorrow, me, have fun. Can't wait. One more LIIT and I would have typed, I love you. I could barely sit still through the first week of the new semester because Ammon was going to be flying back to Mumbai that weekend. I finished all my laundry, cleaning, bill payments, and other adult bullshit before that, so I could spend every minute possible with him. He obviously hadn't made any such plans with me, but in my head it was all decided. I was sitting in the last class of the day when my phone pinged. Ammon. What's my girl doing me? Who's this, Ammon? I'm sorry I didn't text earlier. Me, do I know you, Ammon? Do you think you can be mad at me while I feed you? Did that line work on the Italian women? Ammon, I know you're hungry. I can practically hear your stomach growling. Also, Italy has women. I didn't know, idiot. I was staring at my phone with a wide, goofy smile on my face when the professor announced the end of class. I texted, "Where are you?" as I packed up, said goodbye to Miklas mates, and walked out of the university campus. I was about to refresh the chat window to see if he had replied when I looked up, and there he was. Leaning against his car, parked right opposite my university gate, looking all tanned and gorgeous and completely clothed. Damn it! I crossed the road and walked towards him. Hi, gorgeous. He smiled as he took my face in his hands. I tried to keep it together, but my lips continued to stretch into a smile till I was sure my gums showed. Ammon was finally back home, where I could watch, smell, and touch him. Hi, I said breathily and leaned in closer to his chest. I wrapped my arms around him and tucked myself in. He placed a soft kiss on my head and hugged me back. We drove back to my place and ordered in our favorite dinner, Chinese takeout. I was in the kitchen putting away the dishes when Ammon dashed in, took my hand and pulled me out to the balcony. The monsoon shed arrived. I may have mentioned this before, I've never really been a fan of Thurains in Mumbai. Growing up, I loved it when it rained in Pune, because of that just meant better weather and a day off from school. But the rains in Mumbai, they were a whole different monster. The roads got messed up, water clogged every other lane in the city, and traffic became a worse nightmare than it already was. Although the city still functioned as thought shower had just gently moistened its spirits, I hated going to uni on rainy days, hated how gloomy and wet it got for days on end, and hated how me books began to smell all musty. But this year, the monsoon felt new, less annoying, maybe slightly beautiful too. The blue and white overhead canvas had been pulled back, and Ammon stood in the center of the balcony, getting drenched in the rain, with his hand stretched out towards me. Come on, don't leave me hanging. It's the first rain of the season, he said, eyes glowing with excitement. This is all incredibly movie-like. I laughed. Are you just going to stand there? He asked as I hovered on the threshold of the living room. Shirt is very see-through right now. Don't mind if I do, I teased. He took 2 big strides towards me and caught me by the waist. And before I could protest, I was scooped up like a toy and out to the balcony, getting drenched with Ammon. I'm wearing contact lenses. I gasped as soon as I felt the sting of the water in my eyes. Close your eyes, he said, setting me down. I closed my eyes and lifted my head up as I let the rainwater wash away the heat from my body. The past few weeks had been horribly hot in city, and this was much needed. I could still feel my cheeks glowing red from being so close to Ammon after almost 2 weeks, and I moved closer to him as I gripped his shirt like I never wanted to let him go. I could feel his hands move from my waist to my shoulders, to my neck, and then on to my cheeks. I could feel his breath as he closed the distance between our faces and leaned, and so our lips were just an inch apart. Next time, if I'm leaving the city for more than a day, I'm taking ya with me, he murmured against my lips. Clingy, I murmured back. I felt him smile before he held my neck and kissed me. Now I get why the poets go on about romance and the rains. The monsoons were really going at it this year. Most of my classes through July had turned into online lectures, as none of our professors were bad as enough to swim through the city's gutters, jump waterlogged railway tracks, or simply teleport themselves to university. Losers. So that meant that my days included spending a few hours at the bookstore, coming home before rush hour, to avoid pedestrian traffic. Yeah, that's a thing in Mumbai. Attending online classes till 8 p.m. and then spending time by myself, with my friends or with Ammon. Or reading. Or catching up with Aji. Or chilling with Ammon. Yes, there was a lot of Ammon. My days would start with butterflies in me tummy from playing and replaying in my mind every touch and every kiss we shared, and end with the anticipation of more. Whenever I felt like an obsessed teenager, with the hormones doing all the thinking for me, I took a couple of minutes to have a serious one-on-one chat with myself in the mirror. But the stupid smile that invariably appeared on my face, even as I reasoned through things, was bribe enough to make me to feel everything I was feeling without assuming the worst. So I did just that. Occasionally, to keep myself in line, I dissected every meeting and scrutinized every conversation I had with Ammon. But every time the familiar feelings of doubt crept up on me, he did something to push them away. One Saturday, we were chilling at my place with a 3,000-piece Disney puzzle, with no plan of action for the rest of the day. It was a rainy afternoon, so we'd ordered takeout khichdi and chicken tandoori, and Ammon made me a drink of rum and hot water. Aji drinks rum and hot water on rainy days too, I said. With a stick of cinnamon in it, you should be having a drink with her then, he said simply. Maybe someday soon. I exclaimed. We can't just go to Pune today, why not? I had no answer, so in the next few minutes I found myself packing an overnight bag to visit Aji, with Ammon. He casually offered to fly us in his private jet so we could be there in 15 minutes. Of course, I should have guessed that would be his solution. But I pointed out how we would then not be able to take a detour for corn fritters and chai in Lanivala on our way. Also, hello, what about climate change? Ashok was immediately asked to arrive, and off we went. I had high expectations from the drive, but both of us passed out in the car the minute it hit the highway. I woke up when we were about 40 minutes away from Aji's home and turned my head sleepily to look at Ammon, whose head was resting on me shoulder and his fingers intertwined with mine. His shoulders moved in a relaxed rhythm as he breathed in and out. His perfectly shaped lips were-parted just slightly. I gently reached for my phone and indulged in a selfie with the most adorable man in the world. A strange feeling started pooling at the bottom of my stomach as I stared at that picture of us. Was I leading him on? Why hadn't he asked me anything after that conversation we'd had 2 months ago? Did he look at highs as just a casual relationship? Was he seeing other women on the side? Was he seeing me on the side? What was I doing in his life? You're a creep, Avani Joshi. His voice brought me out of my trance. He was sitting up now, though his head still rested at a lazy angle on the seat. I glanced at his sleepy face and bit my lip to hide a smile. I reached over and ran my fingers through his tousled hair and then over his cheek. Why am I a creep? Because you take pictures of innocent men while they sleep. He stretched and put his left arm around my shoulder, pulling me close. Are there yet almost? There it was, that feeling of calm again. All the doubts vanished and a fine cocoon of joy enveloped my heart. Feelings were so deceptive. Which ones was I to believe? What started off as a weekend in Pune at Aji's house ended up becoming 2 nights and 2 whole days of overreading, yoga classes and endless discussions, most of which were strangely titled. Oh, do you know what Avani did when she was 6, and 7 and 10 and 15? Ammon decided to work from home on Monday and I took a sick day. I texted Martin to tell him I'd see him on Tuesday morning, Martin. Have fun, virgin me. I'm in my grandmother's house, you pig. Martin, if you can dry hump your man in the bookstore's supply closet, your childhood bedroom is far from inappropriate. Unleash those hormones. I rolled my eyes, locked my phone screen, and made a mental note to make out with Ammon in my bed at least once before we left for Mumbai. Martin knew me too well. Where did you find him? Aji whispered, as we sat chatting in the living room on Sunday night after Ammon had gone to sleep in the guest bedroom. I laughed at the thought of what a simple yet ridiculous question that was. He wasn't a sweater I'd picked up at a thrift store. He was a man, a beautiful man we met at the bookstore, Aji, I said, laughing, reaching out to give her hand a squeeze. And now he is your boyfriend. She again whispered, no, I mean we're hanging out, I don't know, hanging out. What are you, laundry? She snapped, Aji. I let out a snort. I've just met him, we're taking it slow. How old is he? He's 31. Then you are taking it slow. He isn't, she replied calmly. What do you mean, have you seen how that man looks at you? If you weren't Migran daughter, I would marry him. I raised my eyebrows and looked at her in surprise. All those yoga classes and sangria nights she had been attending with her gal pals had made her feistier than I remembered. I could if I wanted to, Aji added nonchalantly. I shook my head and stifled a laugh. I leaned over and hugged her. I like him, I said softly. I can tell. She smiled. We stayed like that, hugging each other on the couch, as my mind started going to places I feared and my eyes began to sting from tears I hadn't anticipated. I missed feeling like this. Protected, tucked into Aja's arms when life seemed a little too much. She always knew what to do and say. And although I knew she was always a phone call away, I missed how she stroked my hair when she understood I was silently fighting the demons nobody could see, like I was in that instant. Not everyone is the same, she said quietly after a while. That opened the barrage I was holding back. I cried softly as I held onto Aji. She gently patted my head and rocked me in her arms. I could pretend all I wanted, but I was taking this anything but slow. I knew I was playing with fire, and I liked it too. August 2023. Avani first fight. The thing about getting overly attached, emphasis on overly, to Somyeon is exactly that. You don't realize how deeply you feel about them until something comes along to shake you into reality. Or in this case, someone. Now I've known me for 23 years? Yeah. And I've known Ammon for 4 months approximately. So I wish someone would help me understand why I did what I did and how I did it. How come we don't hang out with your friends much? I asked. I haven't really seen them after that night at your house. Ammon and I were chilling on my living room couch on a Wednesday evening after my classes, and all his long business calls were done for Thede. He was reading some smart leather-bound book while I was filing my toenails. My friends? He asked absent-mindedly. Yeah, we never see them. Don't you like meeting them? I do. Then why don't you? No reason. He shrugged. Is it because of me? I asked sharply. What do you mean? He put his book down. I mean, do you not meet them because of me? Been spending all my time with you lately. I haven't got around to making plans with them. It doesn't really matter. They can make plans if they want to meet. Oh, so you're saying it is because of me then? I snapped. He sat up, a confused look on his face. What's on your mind? Nothing. You've met most of my friends. Do you want to meet them again? No, I replied, biting the inside of my cheek, wondering why I'd even started this conversation. Okay, he said simply and turned back to his book. We sat there in silence, which was perfectly okay. So I don't know what came over me that I opened my mouth and said a little belligerently, I have to admit, you've met all my friends, you know, and you've met Aji. You've seen where I work, you've come to my university, you've even seen embarrassing pictures of me as a child. I raised my eyebrows. And guess all I get in return is watching you read a book in my living room. You want more. He bit his lips to hide a smile. No, I replied curtly. It's okay, go back to your book. Okay, silence again. Are you ashamed of me? I said before I could really think through what it was that I wanted from him. You ashamed of me? I repeated in my most annoying tone. Why the hell would I be ashamed of you? I don't know, you tell me. What's going on, Avani? Ammon asked gently, scooting closer to me. Did I do something? Nothing, I replied and went back to filing my nails. In my head, I'd decided that I was done with whatever this tantrum was and that I needed to have a little internal dialogue before I said things out loud. Ammon, however, wasn't on board with this plan because of course it had all happened inside me thick head. I'd riled him up. So I deserved what came next. I really can't tell with you sometimes, he said. Can't you just say what you're thinking and make it easier for both of us? What I'm thinking is, maybe you don't want me to meet all your friends because don't say it, don't say it. I work at a bookstore and all those other girls you know are like Victoria's Secret models or some shit. There, done now. Ammon looked at me, incredulous. Honestly, the fuck was wrong with me? I never got this insecure. I loved myself too much to compare myself to anyone else. However, I'd been scrolling through Ammon's socials, and there was a particular handle that kept commenting on every picture he posted, someone I hadn't met at Ammon's party all those months ago. I'd told myself it was probably an ex-girlfriend or just a friend, but something about the comments nagged at me. Anyway, coming back to the stupid situation I'd put myself in, Ammon's response was sharp when he said, I don't understand what that means. What is going on, Avani? I want to meet your friends more often, all of them. But I don't want to tell you that I want to meet all your friends more often. I want you to know that maybe it's time I met all your friends, all of them again, I blurted out. His eyebrows were now raised to his hairline. I looked down at Miles, hoping he wouldn't read too much into this or just fling his book at me. I would have if I were him. I was being a brat for no reason. When I looked up, I saw he'd crossed his arms across his chest and a smile had appeared on his face. Was he amused? He shook his head, chuckled and pulled me towards him, tucking his face into the crook of my neck. I tried to fight it, but he looped his hands around my waist and hugged me tightly. Cute when you're needy, you know that, he said. My jaw dropped. I'm not needy, I said as I slapped his arm. I felt half annoyed that he'd called me out on my moody nonsense and half relieved. How about dinner on Saturday, my place? My brother is in town and a couple of friends will be coming over. These are the only friends that matter, okay? He whispered into my neck. Oh, we're going straight to brother. Why not? And then maybe you and I can have a little after-party off our own once everyone leaves. He placed a gentle kiss on my shoulder. Going to make me clean the dishes, aren't you? I said. You know I love it when you get dirty. He winked. 5 August 2023. Avani woke up to deal with needy Avani. It was Saturday. I looked at my reflection in the mirror before I met Ammon downstairs. The needy girl who had thrown a tantrum for this partido happen was not there anymore. This morning, I'd woken up as the introvert who blamed her briefly extroverted alter ego for making a plan. That involved skinny jeans and concealer and stepping out of home. I took a deep breath and locked the door behind me. Downstairs, by the car, Ammon pulled me into a hug and placed a soft kiss on my cheek. "You look beautiful," he said. "I promise I didn't spend the past hour trying out a bunch of clothes so I could get this reaction from you," I said with a serious expression. That brought on another hug. "Let's go," he said. It was a much more intimate affair than I'd imagined. We entered Ammon's apartment to see a bunch of servers placing expensive-looking silverware next to expensive-looking plates on expensive-looking placemats on a very expensive-looking dining table. A proper sit-down affair with catered food and service, not what I was expecting. "Wow," I started. I didn't want a hectic scene, so I kept it simple, sure. This was all pretty simple, nothing over the top or unusual at all. I walked around the table, taking in the finery, and then peeped into the kitchen, which was buzzing with chefs. The anticipation of a Boranjevening lulled as I poured myself a glass of wine and went to get comfy at me regular spot on Ammon's living room couch. Ammon was busy talking to the head chef when the doorbell rang. Before anyone could respond, he practically jumped out of the kitchen and sprinted to answer the door. I heard faint chatter from the hallway for a few seconds before he walked over to me with what I can only describe as an older, more intense version of Ammon. "Avani, meet Gagan, my elder brother." I put the wine glass down and went over expecting to hug Ammon's brother when he stiffly stuck out his hand. "Pleasure," he said curtly. A little thrown, I retracted my outstretched arms and shook his hand. Firm handshake. A little firmer and it would have cut off blood supply Tommy arm. "I'll get you a drink, just give me a second," Ammon said, and went off to the kitchen, completely oblivious to my eyes pleading him to not leave me alone with this new person. "So, are you in town for business or pleasure?" It was the first question that sprung to my mind in the absence of my ability to make small talk. "Business," he said, not really making a move towards the couch or any author seating area. "Nice, nice." I rocked back and forth, mentally screaming out to Ammon to come back. "Ammon tells me you're based in London, that's correct." He stood there stiffly, his arms crossed before him. It didn't look like this invitee would be the life of the party. Did it, I thought, and felt immediately guilty. As someone who was socially awkward, I had no business judging someone else for not being personable with a person he'd just met. It was unlike me to want to make more conversation. In any other situation, I would have been relieved that Gagan was okay with his monosyllabic responses, but this was Ammon's brother, and something about Ammon's excitement at seeing him made me want to try a bit harder. "So do you come to Mumbai oft?" "I have to go. Excuse me." He walked off towards the kitchen. The middle of my question, no fucks given. I stood there, sweat gathering on my forehead, ready to curl into a ball and become one with the couch cushions, when I heard the brothers emerge from the kitchen, chatting, and move towards the main door. "Oh, Avani," Ammon called out to me, looking over his shoulder. "Gagan can't stay for dinner." "Oh," I managed to reply before walking towards them. "Meeting you, Avani," Gagan said, before hugging his brother Rand stepping out of the door. I thought the dinner was for him. I looked at Ammon as he shut that door and returned to the living room. "Well, that's Gagan for you. You can never really make plans with him. His schedule is too erratic, that must suck. I can tell you miss him, we've grown used to it," he said. "Should we head to the dining room and get comfortable there? Jog is almost here, and Nikhil and Kushi texted say they'll reach in 15. "Yes, let's." The evening went fine after that, but I couldn't get the weird encounter with Gagan out of my mind. In all his reluctance to engage, I'd felt he was watching me closely, almost scrutinizing me. I wondered what Ammon had told him about me, if anything at all. I looked at Ammon and saw him guffawing at something Jogi had said, and figured I should stop overthinking it. That was just how his brother was, maybe. A man of few words and fewer facial expressions. Later that night I lay in bed, wondering how strange the past week had been with my moods and emotions running untamed, and then woke up the next morning to the answer. My period was here 11 September 2023, Avani taking a chance on the universe. Does anyone else suck at multitasking as an adult too? And I don't mean the pay bills while getting 3 meals a day and not die of dehydration, kind of multitasking. That's basic survival shit. I've lived by myself long enough to have cracked that. I'm talking about the kind of compartmentalization of priorities that needs to come with being an adult. I visualized it as many lateral charts of to-dos placed parallelly in your mind, with all of them needing to be accomplished together. Like wanting to have a steady source of income while studying, while also making time for skincare before bed and clocking in 8 hours off sleep. What do you prioritize? Like spending money on avocados, but also fighting with the dry cleaner guy for bumping up the prices. What do you prioritize? Or, in my case, like wanting to be a successful lawyer, but also not wanting to stop thinking about a certain billionaire CEO who was theme bediment of every romance novel hero ever. How? 2. Prioritize. My life had been so much simpler 6 months ago, when I would wake up thinking of no one in particular, get through my morning routine, then get to work and listen to Martin tell me about his latest fuck. Study for a few hours, come home, cook dinner, and then eat it while watching reruns of The Office. Even for someone who is all about enjoying her own company, the last few lines are sad. Maybe it was, until Ammon walked into the bookstore all polished and perfect. But at least those 6 months ago, I wasn't sitting at my study table at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning, staring at an unfamiliar word that flashed across my semester results displayed on my computer screen. Reappear, yes, that next to 3 of my 5 courses. Practitioner's approach to competition law, 53% commercial contract drafting, 81% advanced company law, reappear banking and financial law, reappear corporate insolvency law, reappear shit. I stared at my report sheet. This was worse than the time I'd fallen off me friend's moving motorbike because I wanted to lie back and enjoy Thurines in Pune. That was plain stupidity. But this, what was this? I stared with my eyes wide, waiting for some kind of pep talk to come through. From somewhere, none came. I had never slacked at school. And that, too, because of a boy. Never ever. If Aji saw this, she would probably come hug me for taking a break from being a nerd for once. Thank good something pleased you more than company law. It's okay, I'm sure you will do better next time, she would have said and patted me proudly on my back while the world collapsed around me. But no, this was not my life. I needed to get my shit together. I picked up the phone and called Maya. I needed to get an earful from someone, no answer. I called Martin next. It's 8 a.m., bitch. Who died? He answered in a groggy voice. My career. I don't have any coffee in me for your quarter-life crisis. Do I need to make a mug first? Martin, I failed 3 out of my 5 courses. And I'm freaking out. This has never happened before and I don't know what to do. You failed 3 classes. He yelled. I whimpered. Well, can you attempt them again? Of course I can. But that's not the problem. What's the problem then? The fact that I failed them. I don't fail. I've spent the last few months being focused on everything but my career. And the results clearly show that if I keep going like this, I may not even have a career. Martin laughed. Calm down, it's okay. What? It's not okay. I can't keep doing this with Ammon. How is this Ammon's fault? It's not his fault. It's mine. I need to take a step back and focus on my career. He's well settled anyway. I don't want to be the loser who got too caught up in her feelings. Ani, breathe. So you flunked a couple of classes. It's okay. Everybody does. That doesn't mean you failed as a lawyer, are you dumb? I snapped. That is exactly what it means, Martin. Oh me God. Feelings of instant regret and panic were starting to settle inside Mitchist, and my hands were going numb from holding my phone to my ear with white-knuckled force. Calm down. Seriously. You have another chance to clear the Secourses, right? He asked calmly. Yes, all right, so let's focus on that. And Avani, yes, Ammon might just be the best thing that's happened to you in a long time. He paused. You know I'm right. He's good for you. Don't mess this up because you don't see it yet. I relaxed as I felt my nerves calm a bit. Why did Martin have to wake up and make sense? I wouldn't have minded freaking out about the situation a bit more before logic took over. I told him I'd call him back when I saw Maya's call waiting on the other line. Morning, cutie, she said cheerily. Sorry, was in the gym when yowkled. Of course, she was running to perfect her already fit body and glowing skin while my life was falling apart. I failed 3 courses this semester, I said in a low voice. What are you doing now? She asked. You mean other than freaking out about my future? Nothing. Brush your teeth and get dressed. I'm picking you up for breakfast in 20. She hung up. I had a couple of hours before I had to be at the bookstore and I needed to hear what Maya had to say. I needed to be in sane human company so I wouldn't spiral to dangerous places in my mind. So I did as I was told. Half. An hour later, We were sitting across the table from each other at our favorite breakfast joint not very far from home, sipping our coffee and waiting for our toast and omelet to arrive. "What are you doing in this part of the city so early in the morning?" I asked. I had to make a delivery to this snooty client who's becoming a bigger pain in my ass with every passing minute. She rolled her eyes, chuckled, and looked into my coffee mug. "But you tell me," she said. "What's on your mind? I've never been distracted, Maya. I don't know how to deal with failing courses like the rest of us, Ani. You study harder and get through them the second time. But you knew that already. Now tell me what's really on your mind." She tilted her head as she waited for me to answer. "I don't know what I'm doing with Ammon," I said as I let out a long breath. "It started out as an innocent, flirty friendship, and now we're in uncharted territory, where strange feelings and thoughts are taking over." She sipped her coffee and nodded at me to continue. "I love spending time with him, and I miss him when he isn't around. But the more time I spend thinking about him, the more I feel like I'm getting blindsided by something that should be in plain sight. Like I'm walking on a tightrope without knowing how far I'll fall if I don't make it to the end. You know, are you maybe feeling like that because you're stuck in the middle?" she asked, articulating each word slowly. "What do you mean? Maybe you know you like Ammon but are too worried to label those feelings. So it's stuck between being a friendship and something more. And maybe that uncertainty is what's playing on your mind. You're one of the smartest, most intelligent people I know, Ani. You've always lived by your own rules. I've watched you deal with whatever life has thrown at you and never felt you needed a reality check. You're careful and conscious every day. Maybe, somehow, Ammon has challenged that part of your being. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but you can't fool yourself any longer than you already have. For the first time, I feel like you're not being honest with yourself, and that's concerning." As I listened to her, the reality of her words slowly dawned on me. I don't know what it is, Maya, but with him, I'm constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. When I'm with him, life is perfect. But the minute he drops me home, I silently wait for a message or a call or a news article that will tell me that he isn't as great as he seems. And I know how stupid that sounds when I say it out loud like that. But it's tough to not be able to trust someone even when they've given you more than enough reasons to trust them. My life is the opposite of what I read in my books. Ugh. Maya smiled as she held my hand in hers. "I guess you'll never know if you don't take a chance, Ani." She paused. "And that's a choice too. You could choose not to take a chance and walk away from Ammon because you believe he isn't right for you. But it's a choice you'll have to make. Things aren't going to sort themselves out on their own. You can't be on the fence about it anymore. For your mental peace and clarity, make that choice." I bit my lower lip as I contemplated her words. She was right. It had been 6 months since I'd met Ammon, and he'd given me no reason to be sobroody about us. He'd been nothing but supportive, respectful, and charming, and maybe it was time I got over my insecurities and took a chance. Chances were that I would have to live with a gaping hole in my heart if my fears were to come true. But there was also a chance that the universe would come through and give me what I deserved. Maya dropped me home a while later, and I went straight into the shower to let the new thoughts settle. I got ready soon after and left for the bookstore. I put my bag down on the billing counter and stared in nothingness for a minute before I fished out my phone and dialed Ammon's number. If there was anything I was sure about when it came to him, it was Thaith was definitely worth the risk. "Hi, gorgeous," Ammon said as soon as he answered my call. I don't care how cheesy I sound when I say no words hotter have ever been spoken by any man who walked the face of this planet. Ever. It was 10:03 a.m., so I guessed he was on his way to office. His tone was relaxed, not like he'd been in the middle of prepping for a work call. Bottom line, I couldn't have timed it better. "Hi," I said. What was it about this man's voice that turned my insides to gravy? How had it taken him 2 words to make me forget what an introspective morning I'd just had? 2 hours ago, I'd been contemplating moving to a new country and selling momos for a living, and now here it was, sitting at my day job, smiling into my phone and talking to a guy who I might or might not be falling for. Did my girl sleep okay? Kind of, until she woke up to utter doom and panic. "Your period's back so soon. Worse, your semester results. I completely forgot." What happened? They couldn't have been. "I failed in 3 out of 5, I replied, feeling sad just hearing myself say it again. "Can you reappear?" he asked, not missing a beat. "Baby, it's going to be fine. I can help you with classes in any way you want. I can get Cheryl to look for a tutor. A close friend of my father's is adjudge at the Supreme Court. I can quickly call him to check if he can find Somyeon who can tutor you for this semester. I'm sure we can get through ties. I know it might not look like it, but it's going to be fine, I promise. I bent my head down and smiled to myself. We can get through this, he'd said, and what was better was that I knew he meant it. I could stall what I had to say till dinner. Maybe I could ask him to pick me up after work and then cook for him while I told him what was on my mind. Or I could spare both of us the nerves and come clean with it now. Avani, you there? I'm here. You want me to pick you up after work tonight? Let's get some dumplings for dinner. See what I mean? It's like this guy was made by God when she wastwo glasses of wine down. Because that's when you make the best decisions. You have just the right amount of liquid courage to push your limits, and you're sober enough to tell right from wrong. I say, a woman with 2 glasses of wine can win the world like it's just another Monday. Without further thought, I said, Ammon, yes, remember the time you asked me to be your girlfriend and I freaked out and ruined everything, vaguely. Does that offer still stand? There was silence on the line. I bit my lip nervously. Why wasn't Hesting something? Was it too late? Did I take too much time reaching this decision? Should I have just shut up and eaten the dumplings later tonight, Ammon? I said, tentatively. I heard him draw a breath to say something on the other end of the line and started preparing casual answers to his response. Option 1, no, okay, good. Thank God we're on the same page about this. Option 2, you met someone else. I'm so happy for you. Option 3, sorry, what? I think there was a cross connection just now. The last was by far the safest. Hello, I said again and heard the phone line go dead. He'd hung up. I stared into the space around me like I'd just seen a ghost. He'd chosen to hang up on me rather than answer me. I quickly pinched myself to make sure this wasn't some fucked-up nightmare. How did I mess up my career and the possibility of a future daddy to my 12 puppies all in one morning? I hopped off my stool and walked towards the cafe, where Martin was busy talking to some guy who had come in. There must have been something about my expression because I saw him stiffen. OMG. What did you do? He asked in panic. Sit, sit. He indicated the stool next to the guy he was talking to. Okay, boo, take 5. I have a crisis at hand. He told the guy and walked around to me. Speak. He barked, don't yell at me. I barked back, sorry, your face is really freaky right now. Just tell me what you did. He put one hand on his chest and the other on my shoulder. I asked Ammon to be my boyfriend and he hung up on me, I said. Martin looked at me like I'd told him Michael Jackson was still alive. What was it about these words from my mouth that just stunned men in tossilence? Say something. I yelled. Did you try calling him back? He blurted. Maybe he was in a bad network area. Nope. Ooh, I felt bad for him because I knew I'd put him in a spot, and to think I had been mad at him for making too much sense when I'd called this morning. This is the worst day ever. Why did I have to open my fat mouth hand say stupid things? I could have just shut up and mulled over my feelings for a day or two and then made an informed decision. Why did I have to be impulsive and embarrass myself like this? When am I going to learn, Martin? But Martin said nothing. He just looked at me, his lips pursed. For a second, I thought he was going to have a laughing fit. I fisted my hands on me sides, because if he was going to laugh at me, he was going to have to do it with no teeth. I straightened up, rolled my shoulders back, tilted my chin up and took 2 long breaths before I decided that I was not going to stand there waiting for Martin to say something. I was going to go back to my workstation and call Ammon back and get this straightened out. I'm a lot off things, but a coward isn't one of them. I gave Martin 5 more seconds before I turned to leave and walked bang into a strong, broad chest which had been just inches away from me. Before I could look up or process what had happened, I felt 2 strong hands around the back of my neck and my face being tilted up. It must have been all the overflowing emotions, but my vision was so blurry I couldn't comprehend anything. It happened so fast that my raging heart went absolutely quiet the moment I felt Ammon's lips on mine. I took a long breath to inhale the familiar scent of aftershave, and my shoulders slumped in submission. His hands moved from my neck to my waist as he picked me up and gently put me down on top off the coffee bar. He moved in closer as he deepened the kiss and ran his hands up and down my back. When I finally gained control over my limbs, I cupped his face with my hands and pulled back from the kiss with wild confusion and anticipation in my eyes. Yes! He kissed my cheek and buried his face in the crook of my neck as I felt him smile against my skin. He was here. He came. He did not run away and block my number. I heard myself let out a short laugh as relief washed over me. Having him in me arms had calmed down every little annoying voice in my head. I buried me hands in his thick brown hair and hugged him. Even if I died right then, I wouldn't mind. Not even a little bit. You could have just said that on the phone and saved me a whole Hispanic attack, you know. I murmured against his suit jacket. I know, but what's the fun in that? He replied, idiot. My idiot. How had I woken up so badass today? How had I dealt with a massacre of a report card and cemented a relationship all in a few hours on a Monday morning? And to think I'd done that with no wine in my system. Well done, Avani. 20 September 2023, AMA and I must have done something right. I'll pick you up after class then, I said as my car halted outside the bookstore. Spending that extra hour studying with DHRUV after my last class today, don't forget. She replied as she stuffed her phone back into her bag and turned to look at me. Oh, yes. How's the tutoring going? She shrugged. As well as it can, I guess. His notes are really helping me, I have to say. Be good. See you later. I leaned in to kiss her cheek. 9 p.m. it is. She kissed me back and stepped out of the car, saying, Best of luck with your meeting today. Avani, I called him. She peeked in through the window. I love you, I said, smiling. Whatevs. She rolled her eyes and smirked playfully and swayed her hips a little extra as she turned and walked into the store. Oh, she knew I was looking. I sat back as a shock turned the car in the direction of the office. I was about to open my email app to check how my day was planned when the phone rang. It was Ma, Babu, came her voice. You know how much I love that name, Ma, I said, Fackingganians. That's why I call you that every time I miss you a little too much, Cher responded cheekily. Are you at work? Just dropped off Avani at the bookstore. Heading to the office now. Oh, which reminds me, I hope you're getting her to the party next weekend. It's been too long now, we have to meet her. I haven't asked her yet. Why? We won't judge you for dating a girl with 8 eyes and 3 noses. Aliens are in this season. Huh, rich of you to assume it's her that I'm embarrassed of, I daced. She laughed heartily in response. I've just not had the chance, Ma. Maybe I'll ask her later today. Nothing doing. You are getting her with you, and that's that. Right, ma'am. I'll talk to her today. I've got to go now. Love you, sweetheart. See you soon. We miss you. I hung up with a smile on my face. I miss them too. Their 35th anniversary was around the corner, and Ma had been planning the celebration for weeks. It was to involve only close family and a few friends, and it was to be a surprise for Papa, except that she'd not been able to keep it a secret from him. She'd confessed to me that one evening last week, when Papa had casually asked her what she was doing up late in the study, she'd replied, a little irritated, I'm planning a surprise wedding anniversary party for you, Annal. Stop interrupting me. So the party had gone from being directed by one crazy party planner to 2 crazy party planners, which Iswi I've had nothing to do with the planning. The happy couple had gone ill out, I was sure, and I was looking forward to it because my folks had always been excellent hosts and knew how to ensure their guests had a great time. And I was looking forward to spending some time with Gagan too. As for Avani, Ma had been asking me to invite her over to meet everyone, but I'd been hesitating about bringing up the meet the parents thing. I'd met her Aji, of course, but she hadn't spoken much about her parents. There was something there, I guessed. I noticed the way she went quiet and pensive at any mention of my folks. Morning, Baba. Cheryl smiled as I walked by her desk and entered me cabin. Morning, beautiful. What's happening? What's on the cards today? I've set up your meeting with the Kanskai Chic guys in meeting room 2 for 11:3 a.m. Yes, I read the email. Oh, so you dressed like your meeting was on the beach on purpose then? She raised an eyebrow at the shirt I was wearing. I pursed my lips. Avani's idea, and to answer your question, yes, I smirked. The meeting went well. I loved it when the room was filled with minds that were receptive to new ideas. The only downside of becoming the CEO of a company with a wide range of operations at the age of 30 was that you'd probably be the only one who was 30 in most boardrooms. On most days, everyone around me was close to twice my age, so this meeting had been quite exciting for me. The conversation was productive, and I saw a lot of potential in Kanskai Chic joining hands with Reina Textiles. Make sure we set up a follow-up call in a week once the contract is sent, I told Cheryl. Then I nodded at the 2 young entrepreneurs as I stood up to leave the meeting room. Thank you for your time. Please get in touch with Cheryl if you have any questions at all. I'm an email away too. I entered my cabin and sat down as my phone rang. It was Avani. How was it? Shit. Are you still in the meeting? Okay, call me when you are free. She hung up. I smiled at my phone and called her back. Hello to you too. I said, hi, it's over nah. How was it? Went very well. They might come on board by the end of next week. Great, I knew it would work out. I think it was the shirt I picked that did it. Oh, definitely the shirt. I smiled. Where are you? On my way to the next class, okay? Have a good one. I'll see you later tonight. I love you. Whatevs, I said, and we both laughed. The rest of the day in office was busy, as always. We'd been working in some interesting projects with the government, and the internal teams had been driving themselves hard to deliver. Papa's credibility was at stake here, so I'd taken it upon myself to look into every detail. Before I knew it, it was 8:03 p.m., and most of the office had cleared out. I finished sending the last few emails and shut down my laptop for Thede. I stepped out to see Cheryl still at her desk. It's late, I said, almost done. I was just getting a present for your parents' anniversary. She smiled. You don't have to, you know. They'll be glad to just see you, I know, but they are very special to me. I've knitted a tablecloth for them, you know how much your mother likes handmade stuff, and just ordered a painting from a Pitchwai artist she loves. I gave her a quick sideways hug. Shall I drop you home? Oh no. I'm meeting a friend for a drink at the bar down the street, She said as she got up to leave. I'll walk over. Good night. See you tomorrow, I said and walked to the elevator. I was sitting in the car outside Avani's university campus thinking off ways to bring up the Mussoorie trip when I heard the door open. Hey, gorgeous. What do you feel like having for dinner? I placed a kiss on Avani's cheek as she settled beside me in the car. Can we just go home, yours, and eat ramen? She asked, kissing me softly. She settled her head back on the seat and turned to me. Of course we can. I tucked her under my arm and asked Ashok to drive us home. I loved how Avani felt when she was close to me. Her hair smelt of coconuts and jasmine, and her body was always warm. Her humkas made a faint chiming sound every time she moved, and her fingers absent-mindedly drew invisible circles on my forearm as she told me about their day. In the elevator, she tugged me into a hug and rested her head on my chest. I'm so tired today, she said, sighing. A shower will help, I said, wrapping my arms around her waist and resting my chin on her head. A half hour later, I was standing at my kitchen island pouring her a glass of wine and fixing myself a green tea when Avani walked down the stairs from my bedroom in my bathrobe, her hair dripping wet and smelling like $1,000,000. I watched her walk towards me like that was all she had been created to do. Be mine, I swallowed. My throat was dry. Robe was just hanging there. I couldn't help myself. It's so soft. What is it made of? Clouds. I think you should wear only this every day. Turned away reluctantly. Wine, yes, please. She settled into my couch and folded her legs under her. What are we eating? You said ramen, I replied. So I ordered ramen and sushi. She took the glass from me and raised it high, saying, cheers to Japan, cheers. I laughed, so. I began as I sat down next to her. What are you doing next weekend? Not sure. Why? Do you want to fly me to Paris in your private jet and feed me escargot on top of the Eiffel Tower? She tilted her head and smirked. Okay, time to take the leap close, I said. I want to fly you to Mussoorie for my parents' wedding anniversary party. Silence. Then after what seemed like ages, she asked, for real, yeah, it's a special day and I want you to be there with me. Your parents know I'm coming, they want you to be there, but it's your choice. I don't want to make you uncomfortable if you think it's too soon. It too soon, not for me. I've wanted you to meet my family for a while now, and what about Gagan, what about him? He'll be happy to see you too. Are you sure? Are you going to only answer in questions? I laughed. Baby, I'm sure I want you to be there, but it's up to you. She took a large sip of the wine and looked into the glass. I could see the wheels turning in her head since she did little to hide it. I told myself that I would settle for whatever answer she gave me. I couldn't choose how fast or slow she wanted to go in this relationship. That was not my place. Take your time. If I want to go, you do. Yes, I do. I've heard so much about your parents. Also, you have dogs there. Ha ha, I do, I exclaimed, relieved. Wow, cool. They'll be really happy. What am I going to wear? Baby, you could wear this bathrobe and you'd still be the most beautiful girl in the room. I kissed her on the neck with just one thought in my head. I'm one lucky asshole. I must have done something right. 29 September 2023, Avani, nothing to wear. What kind of party is this? Ria asked as she lay on my bed, popping butter-smothered popcorn into her mouth. Fancy kind, I gather, I said. From the sound of it, everyone Ammon knows is going to be there. Ugh. I have zero fancy clothes. Where the fuck is Maya? Was she not supposed to be here like an hour ago? Calm down, Ani, said Ria. She said she's right by the corner, should be here any minute. It was Friday afternoon, and I had exactly 3 hours before Ammon picked me up for the airport. Ria and Maya had promised to help me pack for this rich people's royal ball, and characteristically, Ria had arrived with tequila and popcorn, while Maya was on her way with designer clothes from her wardrobe. The bell rang as I was about to plunge into my minuscule closet one more time for an appropriate, private airport OOTD. I'll get it, Rhea announced as she sprung off the bed and bolted to Thedor. Good. That way you're of some use here, I muttered under my breath. All she had done for the past 30 minutes was chug tequila shots and freak me out about how difficult rich people were to be around. I heard that, she yelled from the living room. I rolled my eyes and held my head in my hands as I stared at the pile-off clothes lying at my feet. Crumpled t-shirts, faded PJs, shorts I would never fit into again, a frilly peplum top. Was this for real? Who robbed you? Maya said, walking in with 2 suitcases. This is all I own, Maya. Please tell me you've got your expensive shit. I exhaled loudly. Calm down, Annie. Here, she said, carefully setting down her suitcase and unzipping both. She proceeded to swiftly pull out coats, sweaters, belts, bags, and dresses one after another, and carefully lay them down on my bed, organized by color and size, quite unlike my jigsaw puzzle wardrobe situation. The next hour was a classic rom-com montage. The one in which lively music plays in the background as the dorky girl's besties give her a makeover while chugging alcohol directly from the bottle, and she walks around modeling outfits and making goofy faces. I have to admit that in reality it was a lot more of me saying, OMG, I can't wear this, or you paid how much for this again? And I'm sure it'll fit fine. I don't need to try these on. 1 hour later, we were finally there, all outfits selected and planned, and packed neatly into my suitcase. That's what you're going to wear to bed? Rhea asked as I held up my raggedy Superman tee in one hand and an oversized white curtain the other when she announced nightwear. Why? I asked, looking from one to the other. Rhea ignored my question and turned to face Maya. Maya, could you please? Ani, I think you should pack something cute, Maya said, her lips pursed, holding back a smile. Why? I retorted. Who's going to care what I wear to bed? Hopefully Ammon, Rhea said with exaggerated sarcasm. She always got so squeaky on tequila. Why will Ammon caw? I started protesting and froze mid-sentence. 1 second. Hold on. Did they mean sex was on the cards? Was I going to have sex with Ammon? Ammon, who was sculpted by the Greek gods, and possibly slept only in his hot boxer shorts. Me, who slept in old, oversized clothes with holes in them, hair tied into braids and possibly listenered like a generator. I had not thought of that. Kay, that's not true. I had thought of that. 1,000,000 times. The time it had rained so hard I'd had to stay over at his place. The time we'd napped on my living room couch after watching La La Land. The time he'd spilt ketchup on his white shirt and changed out of it into my old, ratty tee. But it had never got so close to becoming real. My chest suddenly felt tighter. Guys, I said, I'm not ready for this. Course you are. Stop acting like you didn't anticipate it or haven't had sex with anyone before, Rhea squealed. But you don't have to do something you aren't ready for. It's up to you. It's your choice. Maya, giving me the birds and bees talk like I was a teenager. Right. I mean, yeah, it has to be consensual. And oh my God, guys, I erupted. I say I'm not ready, I don't mean mentally. Of course I want to, I mean it's Ammon. What I mean is physically. They stared at me like I was speaking French. My eyes bounced between my 2 confused friends. I'm not ready, I haven't prepared for thys. Physically, I repeated, gesturing wildly at my body. You wanna stretch? Rhea asked blankly. I gave them a few seconds to get what I was saying. Then I sighed. Dear friends, this is to inform you that I have not manicured the garden in a while. It's all quite bushy, both said in unison. Maya giggled. We've still got about 2 hours before Ammon picks Yao up. I can book you at my regular place, or just mow the lawn when you get there. I think I'll do just that. I nodded and went on to pack my trusty razor. Or leave it be, Maya added. Who cares? It's Victorian, right? I laughed. We giggled as I added my makeup pouch and my hairstyling tools to the suitcase and zipped it close. We moved my luggage to the living room, and the girls settled on my couch and turned on the TV, while I walked back into my room and shut the door. I had some time till Ammon got here, but my nerves were getting the better of me. I decided to take a quick shower and then sat on my bed blankly with dripping wet hair and a towel draped around my body. I hadn't been to a family event in quite some time. I'd left my parents' home when I was still a teenager, and Aji had hardly ever hosted family at their house. It had always been her and me. I had attended a few birthday dinners with Rhea's family over the past few years, but nothing of the scala I assumed Ammon's parents' anniversary party was going to be. I wasn't a textbook introvert, but families weren't my strongest suit. I took in a few deep breaths and told myself that Ammon would never make me feel uneasy. I could count on him to read my mind if I got into a sticky situation with his family. Overthinking as usual, Avani. These are just your demon thoughts clouding what could be a fun and easy weekend away. True. No place with 6 dogs could be anything less than pure heaven, right? This could actually be great. I would have Ammon to myself, and then maybe I wouldn't have to worry about how cute or sexy my clothes were if I didn't see a reason to wear them. I smiled to myself. I might or might not have rehearsed my seductive door-to-bed walk before getting rudely interrupted by rapid knocks on my bedroom door. He'll be here any minute, Ani. Are you ready yet or not? Ria's voice came from behind the door. Coming. I yelled and picked up the outfit Maya had left hanging form on my wardrobe handle. I quickly slipped on the classic blue jeans and white shirt, carefully folded the sweater I was instructed to wear before landing in Mussoorie and put it inside my oversized handbag. I checked on my air-dried hair and touched up my minimal makeup. I picked up the tan trench coat that Maya had brought for me, the one that made you look instantly rich, and threw it over my forearm as I opened the door and stepped out into the living room. So chic, Ria exclaimed. Maya, I think you should style Avani very day, Maya whistled. You look great, cutie, thank you. I let out a heavy breath and looked at the girls with grateful eyes. Please, please, please don't forget to water my plants over the weekend, Ria. Shantatai is on leave till Monday, I said as I took my phone off the charging port and stuffed my charger into the handbag. I wore me white sneakers and was just about to call Ammon to check on his ETA when my phone lit up and his name flashed on the screen. You ready, baby? I'm here, he said as soon as I answered. Be right there. I slung my handbag on my shoulder, turned to give my besties a hug and rolled my suitcase to the door. Maybe it was that I trusted Ammon and was looking forward to learning more about his life, or maybe it was that I knew what I was going to wear while I did that. Either way, I was ready for Mussoorie. A man we were doing this. Yes or no? Hello, Ma. I couldn't help laughing. Yes, Ma. Listen, I've got to go now. I'll see you in a bit, I replied as Avani walked up to me. I wrapped Mifri hand around her and kissed the top of her head. You okay? I whispered into her hair. Wait to see you, Babu. Ma's voice sang cheerily into my ear. I had forgotten to hang up. Bye, Ma, I said and quickly stuffed the phone into my pocket as Avani giggled. Babu, she said, an eyebrow raised. I grinned. You'll meet her soon. I held the door open for her as Ashok carefully placed her suitcase in the trunk of the car. I got in and instructed Ashok to head to the airport. Avani, the Mile High Club. I stood at the foot of the 6-step ladder that famous people pose next to when they enter or leave their chartered airplanes, wishing I'd worn a polka-dotted dress, dark shades, and a large straw hat to hold on to against the wind. In large lettering on the side of the plane was stenciled the name Reina. Right, but why would you spend so much money on an airplane and then write your last name on it when you could literally write anything you wanted to? Plain and simple. Wingen it. Nimbus 2000, why the face? You don't like it. Ammon interrupted my thoughts. Do I not like your private jet? I raised my eyebrows at him. He smiled cheekily. It's okay, I guess. I've seen better. I shrugged as he grinned and shook his head, and we made our way up the steps. Just as I reached the entrance, I was swept off my feet as Ammon literally carried me over the threshold and into the cabin. Ammon, I whispered, conscious of the waiting crew politely trying not to look shocked. Put me down. He just chuckled and continued walking until he slowly lowered me to a seat and leaned over, his hands on the armrests. His face was 'Marinch's from mine, the scent of his aftershave like fucking morphine. I stared at him as he gently lowered his head and placed a kiss on my lips. Airplane needs to take off for us to enter the Mile High Club, Mr. Reina, I said, kissing him back. I'm so glad you said yes to this, he said as he settled opposite me and get busy adjusting his seat belt. Speaking too soon, aren't you? I said as the captain locked the doors and announced that we were clear to take off. He laughed and brought my hand to his mouth to place a kiss on Mirist. I turned to look out the window. The retreating monsoon was blessing us with a light shower, and the city lights twinkled in the droplets slitting along the glass as the plane smoothly took off. There was no going back now. Ammon all the heaven and stars. How long is the flight? A little over an hour. Mussoorie has an airport. Nope. We land in Dehradun, and then go up to Mussoorie. How far is that drive? It's not a drive. OMG, is it a cable car? They really freak me out. Nope. Papa has a chopper waiting for us at the Dehradun airport. Of course he does. What happens to this plane then? Does it fly back to Mumbai? No, it stays in the hangar at the Dehradun airport for when we fly back. And the staff stays there too. Do they sleep in the plane? Like a camper? No, we put them up in a hotel close to the airport. You pay for their hotel. Or do you own that hotel too? Something like that. Avani had a lot of questions. About everything. And I couldn't help smiling as I answered all of them. We were 30 minutes into the flight to Dehradun. Avani had her legs folded under her, snacking on popcorn and leaning forward eagerly like it was revealing the hidden secrets of the universe. Do you want to know something about my family too? Or are you only interested in the Reina assets? I smiled as I moved a stray strand of hair off her face. I mean, I'm clearly interested in the Reina assets. Why else would Isnag the most perfectly round one? She winked. Oi, behave, I said. But seriously, aren't you at all curious? She settled back into her seat and said after a pause, I'm terrified, Ammon. Have you not seen how quickly I down those 3 glasses off Champagne? She sighed. Tell me about your mom. She's really excited about meeting you. She's been asking about you very often, so I'm looking forward to the two of you spending time together. She knows we're together, of course she does. She was the first person I spoke to about you. What did you say? That I've met a girl. Wow. She rolled her eyes. Iconic, I laughed. I told her what I had to, and now she'll see for herself and know that I was right about everything. What's everything? Avani rarely fished for compliments, but when she did, I made it a point to indulge her shamelessly. I began. Just that you love your books, particularly the dirty romances, the covers of which you try to hide from me very often. You pretend to garden, when in reality Shanta Tai does the watering and plucking gan pruning, and you just click pictures of the 100 plants you have in your apartment. You're witty, intelligent, and you make me laugh even when you aren't trying. You're pretty and very hot, but you're so clueless about it that it makes you even hotter. You own some 3,000 pairs of silver jhumkas in all sizes, and they are clear indicators of what kind of day you're anticipating ahead. What does that even mean? She asked, crinkling her eyes. As in, when you've got your tiny jhumkas on, it's go time. You have errands to run, bills to pay, kitchen counters to clean, tests to appear for, assignments to submit. When you've got your big, dangly jhumkas on, it means that you woke up earlier than you intended to. You had time to make your breakfast, do your hair, choose what you wanted to wear, and possibly had a light day ahead. You spent an hour talking to your Aji on the phone before leaving for work, and you will have an extra croissant from Martin's tray that day for fun. And then there are the jingling jhumkas. What about them? She asked, clearly amused. When you have those on with your chicken curry kurta and coal in your eyes, I know you've been thinking of me. So those are the days I know I'll have you all to myself. Avani parted her lips like she wanted to say something, but chose to just draw a quick breath in. She put the tub of popcorn down on the island between us and got up to come stand next to me. She took my face between her palms, touched her forehead to mine, and shut her eyes. I pulled her closer to me as I felt one lone drop of tear fall on my shirt. Baby, I whispered as I wrapped her in a hug. Too much, not enough. She snaked her arms around me and hugged me tightly. The rest of the flight went by with me telling Avani about every person who was expected to attend the party. I told her about Gagan and his pragmatic thinking, about Papa and his bad jokes, and about how I could not wait to show her every corner of the house that was so close to my heart. You think they'll like me? She asked as the pilot announced our descent to Dehradun and the seatbelt signs dinged on the display above our heads. She slipped on her sneakers, settled into her seat, and fastened her seat belt as she turned to me with nervous eyes. Love you. By my side, please. I'm not the best in family settings, she said quietly, always. The cabin lights dimmed as the twinkling lights of Dehradun homes came into sight from the plane window. I rested my head back on the seat-hand, took a deep breath. Anybody looking from the outside would question what the big deal was about this one weekend. But something told me that the time we were about to spend over the next 60 hours or so was going to decide where we were headed. I wanted to be everything Avani needed. Because if I hadn't been sure enough thus far, I knew it clearly now. I could not live a life that didn't include her. Not now. Not ever. Avani, what in the Karan Johar cinematic universe is going on here? A cool breeze and the fresh smell of damp earth hit me as I stepped off aircraft about an hour and a good few glasses of champagne later. A black SUV was waiting on the tarmac to transport us to an adjacent helipad, and before I knew it, Ammon was strapping me into my seat on the chopper and fixing his own seat belt as the ground staff quickly loaded our luggage. I shut my eyes tightly as my stomach rolled when the chopper took off, leaving Dehradun looking like a canopy of fairy lights under our feet. I looked at Ammon with a wide smile as we flew further from the city towards less populated, remote mountainside. The noise-canceling earplugs and the headphones reminded me of how fast my heart was beating as every breath I took sounded like a huge ocean wave in my ears. It was almost 7:03 p.m., and the sky looked spectacular, the twilighter painting the mountainside in fatting gold. I looked at Ammon and realized he was watching me, a faint smile on his face. "We're almost there," he said over the headset, his voice in my ear startling me. "Okay." I yelled after fumbling and failing to find whatever magic button we had to press while speaking into the microphone protruding from the headset. The chopper took a slight turn to reveal the silhouette of a gorgeous mansion sitting atop the highest hill in the area. A siren light on a tall tower turned green, presumably signaling to the pilot that it was clear to land. "We're here," Ammon said, looking out and then back at me. That's when the mansion came into full, glorious view. You watched Cab Hi Kushi Cab Hi Gam, right? Now take the Rachin mansion and make it slightly more believable. It wasn't as huge as in the movie, but it could easily pass off as an entire private school. Or a secondary royal residence, the kind a queen would go to if she fought with king. It had a sloping brown-tiled roof and countless little windows on all sides, rays of golden light streaming out from them to the surrounding lawns. I could see a group of people standing at the main entrance of the house, with 5 big, fluffy dogs, ranging from the size of a wolf to a baby bar, and a small, furry puppy, held back by leashes. I bit the inside of my cheeks and took a deep breath as the pilot announced our descent. I adjusted my sweater and fixed my hair. Ammon's smile grew wider as we got closer to the helipad on Thesprawling Estate. As soon as we landed, he jumped out to greet the 6 dogs charging towards him. The helicopter blades gradually stopped whirring and the sound of happy yelps filled the air. I unbuckled my seat belt and took my headphones off. The wind was much more chilly up here, and the tip of my nose instantly went numb. I thanked the pilot, jumped out of the chopper, and quickly wore the trench coat that I had lugged around for this very moment. I wrapped the coat tighter around me and looked up to see where Ammon was when I was quickly pulled into a tight embrace. "Welcome home, Beta." Ammon's Moshi had a strong, kind face with Ammon's brown eyes and a wide smile. I felt something foreign and gooey in my chest. "Hi, Auntie," I managed to say. "Thank you so much for having me here. Come," she said, and placing her hand on the small of my back, directed me towards the house. All of a sudden, people were milling around us, wanting to be of service in every way possible. Some went to pick up the luggage, others stepped forward to tame the excited dogs who were jumping all over Ammon. Someone came forward to offer me a woolen scarf, and a line of people stood at the main entrance with trays of what looked like steaming cups oftia. I was still taking it all in when I felt a strong arm around my shoulder sand was tucked into Ammon's side. "I see you've met Ma." He smiled at me and lowered his head so Hismum could place a kiss on his cheek. "Let's get you both inside. It's colder today than the past few days. You ready, baby?" Ammon whispered, rubbing my arm affectionately. "As ready as I could be," I murmured, looking at the grand doors that swung open for us to enter. I took a deep breath. Who was this man who had convinced me to leave every insecurity behind and follow him to a mansion on a faraway hill, with this warm, fuzzy feeling in my heart? I looked at Ammon and our eyes met. He could ask me to accompany him to the ends of the earth, and all I would ask is, "Am I driving, or are you?" I vigorously rubbed the soles of my shoes on the rug outside the main entrance as I stared into the lobby with my jaw touching my knees. If the lobby was bigger than my entire Mumbai apartment, the rest of the house could easily host Badshah's next concert. The floor was black and white stone tiles arranged in a checkered pattern, and there were large leafy plants in white stone planters along the walls on both sides. Aesthetic artwork adorned the walls and gorgeous-icker lamps hung from the ceiling. There were 2 ornate benches at the entrance, presumably where one could sit to wear or take off shoes, or perhaps sit and stare into nothingness, thinking about how to spend all the money one had. Ammon slipped his hand into mine as he led me through the lobby to expensive living room beyond. The room was, honestly, let your imagination run wild. Everything that anyone could ever want in their Hamido make it look like it came out of someone's dream was there. Yeah, they had all of that and some more. Each item was carefully curated and set in its designated spot, adding to the tasteful aesthetics. There were floor-to-ceiling glass windows with linen curtains in soothing pastel shades carefully tied to the ends of the window trims. Few all on the right had pictures of the family, the dogs, and of holidays, illuminated by stylish light fixtures. A massive painting in a distinctive style, clearly an original, covered a large part of the wall on the left. A gigantic, cloud-like couch was placed a little away from the wall, with smaller couches placed at different angles to it, and a bunch of floor cushions strewn around. A grand armchair stood in one corner. It looked like a family catch-up area. Warm rugs on the parquetted floor and blankets thrown into huge bamboo baskets added to the warmth of the space. The heating had been turned on, and the temperature was set just right. I took off me coat and carefully placed it on the armrest of the couch that I settled into, next to Ammon. I did a quick sweep of the remaining space. Massive bookshelves, a large wooden swing hanging from brass chains, two stately armchairs next to a marble table with a vintage chessboard placed on it, and more comfy couches at intervals. Ammon's mother sat across from us on one of the smaller couches. She picked up the intercom from the side table and dialed a number. "They're here, Annel," she said, excitement brimming in her voice. A house so big they had a private telephone line to be connected to each other. What was next? Horse carriages to take us from the living room to the bedroom. A zipline from the terrace to the garden. An airlift from the backyard to the pool. A server politely offered me the tea I'd had my eye on from the minute I'd got off the chopper. I picked up a delicate cup and handed it to Ammon. Then I took one for myself and nodded at the server. She smiled and moved it in to Ammon's mom. "Rakdu, Beta, thank you." She smiled at me. "This is Pooja," she introduced. "Yeah, Avani didi hain. Baya ko bolo babai banin kila." "Ha ha ha ha," I choked on my fancy tea and Ammon's head snapped up. "Ma," he half whispered, half yelled. "Kidding, don't mind me, Avani. I will never let a chance to annoy my baby boy pass." I smiled awkwardly and hurried to change the topic. "You have a lovely home, Auntie." "Thank you, Beta. It's part of our hearts. I'll give you a tour tomorrow. You must see the tulip garden, THERETHEYR. The booming voice was Ammon's dad announcing himself from atop the majestic staircase on our right that led to the upper floor. I looked up to see a man with a pleasant face. He quickly ascended the steps and walked towards us with a wide smile and open arms. He was dressed in a gray and white striped polo tee and gray pyjama bottoms, with furry slip-ons on his feet. His hair was silver with strategic strands of black placed like they had been painted on. His smile, which reached his eyes, was kind and generous. Something about his presence that made me feel welcome and wanted in that huge house. Like Ammon's mother, too, had made me feel out by the helipad. Ammon got up to hug his father while I put the cup of tea on the table and got to my feet. Sit, Beta. "Please be comfortable," he said after hugging Ammon and patting him proudly on the back. I waved a weak hi at him and immediately felt self-conscious. How was the made a thumbs-up sign? "It was perfect, Papa. Thanks for sending the chopper. That wasn't for you. I wouldn't want Avani's first time here to be adhering Mountain Drive." He turned to me. "Are you cold, Beta? Should I turn the heat up?" "No, I'm fine, Uncle, thanks." I smiled. I sat there in silence, sipping the tea, while Ammon and his parents got up. His father and he started discussing business when his mother interrupted them and said, "We are being so rude. Please don't mind them, Avani. You must be hungry, yes. Now I don't know if this is just me, but every time I'm awkward or uncomfortable, I deny myself the pleasure of any comfort or any remedy for discomfort. Cold. No, I'm fine. Bored. No, I'm having so much fun. Thirsty. Nope. Hungry. No, no. No, Auntie, I'm fine. How? It's dinner time or well past it. Actually, I don't eat dinner, Auntie. Intermittent fasting." I heard myself say and followed it up with a fake laugh. I stole a glance at Ammon, hoping he wouldn't call my bluff and force him to eat something. Needless to say, I was starving. But he just smiled and said, "That's fine, Ma, don't worry about us. We ate on the flight too." We had not, but I was relieved when his mother stopped insisting and replied, "Oh, okay. If you get hungry in a while, I can always send some food up to your room. Ammon, Beta, go get some rest. Your papa and I need to rest too. The guests will start coming in early tomorrow and we need Tobe ready." "Lots to do. Isn't Gagan arriving tonight?" Ammon asked. "Oh, he'll be here in a while. He likes heading straight to his room as soon as he gets home. We can catch up at breakfast tomorrow," his father replied as he got up and walked us to the stairs. "I'll have your bags sent up. Good night, Beta." "Good night, both," Ammon said, turning around to give them both pecks in the cheek. His father placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "We are so happy to have you with us, Avani. Please feel free to ask if you need anything at all. I will. I smiled. Thanks, Uncle. Good night, Auntie. Ammon's mother reached out, took my hand in hers, and gave it a warm squeeze. After they had left, Ammon wrapped an arm around my shoulders and handled me up the gigantic staircase, to the right and then down a passage with 2 rooms on either side. Which one's mine? I asked. Ammon scoffed and grinned as he opened the door on the right. This one's ours, he said. In a daze, I stepped through the door into a cozy lounge area with low cabinets and a tall shuttered cupboard on one side and a living area, complete with a massive TV and recliners on the other. Straight ahead there were sliding glass doors, through which I caught a glimpse of a plush 4-poster bed with a fur rug on the floor and floor-to-ceiling French windows that seemed to open out to a huge balcony. You have an apartment inside your house, I exclaimed as I set down me handbag and trench coat on the console table next to the door and walked towards the balcony. The sky was dark outside, and the crisp chill in the air was a welcome change from the humid heat of Mumbai. I pulled down the sleeves of my sweater and leaned against the railing, looking out at the sprawling gardens, the majestic property gates and stretches of forested land beyond that for as far as the eye could see. I felt Ammon's strong arms envelop me as he hugged me from behind, pulling me towards him and against his warm chest. It turned my head slightly to take in my favorite scent, and he lowered his head to nuzzle against the crook of my neck. Welcome home, he whispered. I leaned back into him and sighed. This is gorgeous, Ammon. I knew you'd like it. You'll love it during the day. It's magnificent, this view. We stayed like that for a while, staring at the moon-washed landscape before us as a cool breeze brushed lightly against our faces. I could feel Ammon's breath on my neck and his warmth against my back. I stood there in Hi's arms, feeling safe. I'll call for dinner in the room, then, Ammon said as he kissed my cheek and headed back into the room. I turned to rest my back against the railing as I watched him call Somyon on the intercom. He placed the handset back in its cradle and walked up to lean against the door of the balcony. I've requested for some basic dal chawal and a Lu Kai sabzi. That's cool, yes, I said. It's perfect. Ammon Elephant, are you sure? What if they mind? Avani had asked me again and again, her eyebrows creased. I was clearly doing a bad job of convincing her that my parents were okay with us sleeping in the same room while we were here. Baby, like I said, I'm 31 years old, an adult. It's okay, I'd said, perhaps for the 1,000th time. After some more nervous packing around the room, she'd finally unpacked her suitcase and begun to settle in. I poured a glass of wine for Avani and made a cup of green tea for myself, and settled into the cane couch on the balcony, staring at the night sky while my mind wandered to new places. This was the first time we would be spending the night in one room. There had been many nights when I'd secretly wished it could be so, and I suspect she had wanted Tatu, but we'd never expressed it out loud to each other, so it had never happened. Except that one night when I'd found Avani snoring on my couch after 4 glasses of wine as I returned with one more, and unwilling to wake her up or leave her sleeping there alone, I had slept on the floor on a mattress. My chain of thought was broken by a sound from the bathroom. I stood up and walked over to the door, which was slightly ajar, and knocked it twice. You okay, Avani? I asked. Is this it? She replied in a raspy voice, I'm coming in. I announced as I slowly pushed the door open and saw Avani leaning against the bathroom cabinet with a bottle of my aftershave held to her nose. I couldn't help laughing this. She sniffed at the bottle again. Oh my God, what about it? I asked. It's my favorite scent in the whole world. She took a deep breath, her eyes closed. I walked over to her and placed my hands on the cabinet on either side of her. Is it yes? She looked up at me. It's how I know you're close. I'm like Asniffer dog. My sniffer dog. Oh, what you say the most romantic things, Ammon. She made a funny face to underline her sarcasm. I can do the most romantic things too, I said, leaning forward to kiss her neck. I'm not in the mood for another Ryan Gosling movie, Han. I'm tired. She laughed, ducked under my arm, and stepped out of the bathroom. Hey, that was just one time, I sighed. Long story that, don't ask. I changed into my sleep boxers and returned to the bedroom to find Avani pulling the duvet back from the bed and fluffing her pillow. She flung off her slippers and tucked herself under the covers. I slid in under the duvet from my side and lay down. Won't you get cold? She asked, her eyes wide. No matter how freezing the weather was, I always slept in my boxers. She turned to her side, facing me, her hands tucked under her face. Her hair fell over one side off her face, and in the dim light of the room, her eyes looked shinier than I'd ever seen them. I tucked the duvet around me and mirrored her posture. Reaching out, it pushed a few strands of her hair away from her neck. "I'll be fine," I said. "So," I said after a few moments of silence. "It's our first night together. That why I suddenly have this mad headache?" she asked, looking serious. I thought it was just an excuse women made to get out of sex. I burst out laughing and pulled her closer to me. She tucked her face under my chin and took in a long breath. "I love how you smell," she whispered, her face buried in my chest. "I love how you feel," I replied, running my hands down her back and resting them on her waist. She raised her head to trace a queue of kisses from my neck to my jaw. My hand on her waist stiffened as our lips met, and then our tongues. The wine and the green tea lay forgotten. Avani taking matters into my own hands. There are times when you pray to God. Like when your exam results are due, or when you're hopping the pimple on your face disappears before a party, or when you want your favorite player to score the winning runs in a cricket match. And then there are times when you just want to hug God for giving you exactly what you want. Like when you get that dream job, or, in me case, when you're lying next to a half-dressed Ammon. The anticipation of the moment hung so low that I could feel the weight of it pressing against my chest as I fumbled to find the right words. "So what happens now?" Seemed too demure and innocent coming from me, given the dirty daydreams I'd had about this very moment. Also, a realistipid question, because, I knew what happens now. "Let's." "Fuck," seemed too aggressive and shallow. So I led with, my feet air-freezing. Without a word, he moved closer to me and gently tucked my cold feet between his, and I took the opportunity to scooch in closer, into the already-in-existent space between us. I watched his eyes flicker down to my lips as I took a slow breath. The corners of his mouth twitched up, just a bit, like he could read every thought going through my mind. My hand drifted up to his chest. I smirked, feeling bold despite the loud pounding of my heart. "So is this the part where I say something clever and mysterious?" I murmured, my fingers tracing his collarbone before resting on his sharp jawline. "Because I'm fresh out of mysterious," Ammon chuckled, a low, delicious sound that rumbled under the palm off me hand. "Oh, I think you've already ruined mysterious," he replied, his hand skimming down my side and stopping at the curve of my waist. "But I'm all for bold honesty." "Well then," I said, pretending to muse as I leaned closer, our nose almost brushing. "Bold honesty would be saying I'm thinking less about this conversation and more about other things, other things." His eyes gleamed with mischief blending with an intense, unmistakable heat. "Other things," I echoed with mock seriousness, which crumbled. Ash inched closer, his lips hovering over mine, close enough to drive mainsane, "that we can do with our hands and mouths and tongues." Before I could finish, his hand firmly grabbed the back of my neck, toppled me closer, and his mouth was on mine, his lips warm and tasting faintly off mint and trouble. His kiss was slow and deliberate at first, like he was savoring every second, like he would ensure he took all the time in the world to explore every inch of me. And for a moment, it felt like the two offices were locked in this perfect moment. But then something shifted. The gentleness melted away, replaced by an intensity that was raw and unapologetic. His grip tightened, and his lips pressed harder against mine, turning the kiss into something fierce and consuming, like he was done holding back. The air between us thickened, and suddenly every breath, every touch felt charged with an undeniable urgency that left me dizzy and wanting more. When he finally pulled back, his fingers still tangled in my hair, Hell looked at me with a knowing grin. Still cold, I let a moment pass before I replied, freezing, and pushed his shoulders down, pinning him to the bed as I climbed on top of him. I was done taking measured steps. I was done thinking and rethinking. I was done being the girl who knew what she was doing. I was done being wise and reasonable. I wanted this. I wanted him. And now that he was right here, vulnerable, almost naked and mine for the taking, nothing was going to stop me. So, what's that saying again? I threw caution to the winds and took matters into my own hands. Make what you want of that last line. Who am I to tell you what to think and what not to? All I can say is that he hums when he wink wink nudge nudge. I smiled to myself as every second of the last hour. Was that really Anwar, or was it 2, or did it last 3 days? Played out in my mind in vivid detail. My stomach did a swoop every time a certain visual or sound echoed in my mind, causing my breath to catch and my heart to skip a beat every few seconds. "You're thinking about it, aren't you?" Ammon whispered into my hair and pulled the blanket tighter around us. We were on the couch on the balcony, cuddled up, processing our first time together. I'm sorry, can you not talk? I shushed him. I'm very busy replaying what that mouth can do when it's not interrupting my very graphic visions. Ammon dropped his jaw in fake horror, then suddenly stood up and gathered me up in his arms, blanket and all. He flung me over his shoulder and smacked my ass playfully as I mock screamed and play-fought his grip. Inside the room, he threw me down on the bed on my back, then crawled over me till his face was directly over mine. Aya and fade to black, 30 September 2023, Avenime new wallpaper. I'm not particularly grumpy or unpleasant in the mornings, but let's say I'm also not like Barbie on crack. So the fact that I woke up this morning with a smile on my face even before my eyes had fully opened is journal-worthy. The sheer curtains drawn across the balcony door danced in slight draft entering the room, causing the golden rays of the sun to form waves and patterns on the wooden floor. I slid my hand over Ammon's on my waist and let the familiarity of his skin fill my heart. Wow, so one night with the man, and I'd woken up as a roomie knockoff. But as much as I loved every bit of snuggling wit,